Welcome to the channel, guys. Fearless Dojo here. This is where we talk about gaming, politics, but most importantly, we just love God. Now, I woke up this morning, just a little bit ago, drinking my coffee right now, and I seen this floating around the internet, YouTube and whatnot, and I just wanted to get my 2 cents out there for it. So I want to throw in the conservative Christian perspective, or at least what I believe that should be. This is an interview of Joe Biden, yes, our president of the United States, most powerful country in the world, being interviewed by some transgender TikTok influencer. I'm so glad I don't have TikTok. All right, let's check this out.
Trans rights, there have been many anti-LGBTQ plus bills introduced and enacted, outlawing things like gender-affirming healthcare and banning kids from playing sports. To go deeper into this issue, here with us.
Okay, so I can already tell that this is probably going to be a bunch of gaslighting. He just said a whole bunch, like, they're going to ask all these questions and say it and portray this like 95% of the country thinks different than how they actually do. For instance, he just said states and areas and people are trying to get transgender banned from playing sports. That is not true. Nobody cares if transgenders play sports. You just have to play the sport that you're biologically born with. Moving on.
Today is Dylan Mulvaney, who's welcomed us into her life by, showing on social media her girlhood series. Let's take a look.
Oh boy.
My name is Dylan Mulvaney. I am a trans woman, and I am documenting my transition publicly on TikTok for the world to see. When people started watching and the numbers kept getting higher, I realized quickly how public my transition would be. Of course, I knew that there would be backlash and negativity. I try to not let the internet's words hurt me or my spirit. But do you know what does hurt? Seeing people in power and authority figures creating laws and bills that are actively trying to harm us trans humans, especially trans children. Our lives have become political.
There it is. Harming trans children. Okay. First of all, I love when they say things and it sounds profound and powerful, but no examples, no facts. First of all, what laws are being created to harm trans adults? What, somebody told you you can't go into the girls' bathroom if you were a 28-year-old powerlifter last week? The trans kids thing. This is, in my opinion, the most dangerous subject maybe in US history. What the left is trying to do with trans children. First of all, I don't even know what a trans kid is. Okay. Kids don't even they believe in Santa Claus. They believe in the Easter bunny. They believe in a fairy coming down and getting your tooth and putting money under your pillow for some unknown reason that doesn't make any sense. Kids will believe anything that you tell them. If you repeat something to them every day, they will believe it, especially if they're 4, 5, 6. And then they're gonna definitely believe it if you've been doing that. And then they become 12, and then they think, oh, you know what? I like wearing dresses as a boy. I like playing with Barbies as a boy. I don't. It's so infuriating. Let's continue.
Talking points. Lawmakers in many states want to exclude us from participating.
Just because a kid goes through a stretch of something doesn't mean that's what they're going to live the whole life as. And I'm not just talking about uh, confusing your sex or wanting to change your sex, which is a joke. But I can't even think straight.
in sports or getting proper health care. Some folks want to decide where we can use the bathroom.
Some folks want to decide where we can use the bathroom. Since the beginning of time, males have used the male bathroom and women have used the women's bathroom in this country. Why? Because women don't feel safe if there's with their little girls with adult men just inches away when they're completely vulnerable. That is why.
No one should have fear living in a state that they call home while being true to themselves. No one should have their lives put in danger because of who they are inside. That's why I'm sharing my story with the world. I'm using my platform to stand up for my community and for any of the little Dylans that deserve a clear path to their true identity.
Mr. President, this is my
Dylan's not a very feminine name.
221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love you.
Thank
221 days. That's not even a year. I'm so interested to see not only this person, but all these other people that are changing their sex or whatever, which you can't do, it's impossible, but saying they're changing their sex. I'm so interested to see what they're going to be like in 10 years, 5 years, 20 years. What the percentage of suicide rate will be amongst these people. I know there's studies out there saying that 40% of trans people kill themselves, which is almost half. That is a absurd number. Ridiculous.
you. I am extremely privileged to live in a state that allows me access to the resources I need, and that decision is just between me and my doctors. But many states have lawmakers that feel like they can involve themselves in this very personal process. Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong. You know, I think I was saying before we started that
Joe Biden is my hero.
my son, my deceased son, used to be the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. He passed the broadest piece of legislation that he, as Attorney General, was able to convince the legislature and the governor to sign that dealt with all gender-affirming capability. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, sometimes they try to block you from being able to access certain medicines, being able to access certain procedures.
How about blocking parents accessing medication that we use to castrate sex offenders on their little boys because they think they need to be girls? I'm all about freedom. If a 27-year-old man wants to become a 27-year-old woman, I don't care. I'm guessing most people don't care. Now, from a Christian perspective, from a God perspective, do I believe it's wrong? Absolutely. Sinful? Absolutely. Does it discuss God? Absolutely. God tells us that He created man and woman, and sexual immorality is a sin. So anything that you do that disrupt those two sexes would be immorality. Okay? So yeah, that's wrong. However, I'm also not a proponent of gay marriage. I think that's sinful. But do I care if men get married? I don't care. Do I think it should be illegal in this country for gay marriage? I don't. I don't think that should be illegal. I'm saying this all because as a faith perspective, I believe something doesn't mean I'm going to force that on my country or my people.
And so on. None of that should be available. I mean, you know, no state should be able to do that, in my view. So I feel very, very strongly that that you should have every single solitary right, including use of your gender identity bathrooms in public.
Thank you. Thank you. And it is.
We cannot allow men, trans women, I think that's how you say it, to be able to go into women's bathrooms. First of all, I don't know what percentage of women in this country don't want that to happen. That to happen. I'm guessing it's a high percentage. I would assume 85, 90%. Vast majority of people, especially in certain parts of the country. Now, if you go to California, New York, Oregon, maybe that percentage drops a little bit just because how nuts they are. But if 90 plus percent in even somewhat conservative states don't want men in their women's bathrooms, Joe Biden, stay out of it.
It feels like Republicans have turned trans and non-binary people into this thing to blame society's downfall on in some ways. And this narrative is not only dangerous to our mental health, but also our physical safety. And
Your mental health is destroyed already just thinking that you want to change your gender. That is not normal. And the more that we push this gender dysphoria, the more that we say, well, push these medications and try and get them to gender swap, the more damage we're doing to these people's psyche.
particularly trans women of color are being murdered at an alarming rate.
More than any other group of people.
Thank you.
Who's murdering them? They don't say that. Who's murdering them? There's a bunch of white men going around murdering black trans women? I don't think so.
How can Democratic leaders be more effective in advocating for us trans people and our families and our lives and our opportunities?
I'm not being facetious when I say this, being seen with people like you. No, I mean it. I genuinely mean it. People fear what they don't know. They fear what they don't know. And when people realize, individuals realize, oh, this is what they're telling me to be frightened of, this is the problem, people change their minds. People are just don't know enough to know.
Profound statement. People don't know enough to know.
And it's not because of intellectual incapability, it's just lack of exposure. And I think that it's really important that we continue to speak out about the basic fundamental rights of all human beings. And the idea that what's going on, in some states, I won't get into the politics of it, but in some states, it's outrageous, and I think it's immoral. The trans part's not immoral. What they're trying to do to trans persons is immoral.
No examples. Nothing. They're not talking about what's being done to trans people that's immoral. They're just gaslighting statements.
And do you have any messages to the families of trans folks that are seeking, options for their children, but are struggling to find resources?
This is an incredibly important question. Let's see what our president of the United States says. What should we do about the options for trans children? What is a trans child? How old are they talking? Nothing. No. They're not framing anything. Nothing is being framed on what they're talking about. It's just bland blanket statements that could have a million perspectives on what they're talking about.
Do you have a message to those parents?
Yeah, I do. This is blood of your blood, bone of your bone. And it is, again, speaking to my son, when he spent a year in Iraq, and he was a decorated soldier. He volunteered to go. He had to give up the Attorney General's job and then came back to it. And he started a foundation I'm not allowed to talk about now because I can't raise money for it any longer. But it was for abused children. And one of the things he did is raise millions of dollars, this organization, to basically educate parents as to what they should not be afraid of, and to educate the community as to what is just pure hyperbole. And
Do you guys think castrating 15, 16-year-old boys, giving them drugs that make their nuts fall off, is abuse? because that's what they want to do.
And so I just think it's a matter of leaders speaking out and saying, as I told you, I mentioned a young woman who used to be in his staff, used to be in my staff, who is now a state senator. And she's trans, and she's a state senator in the state of Delaware, in an area that was historically very conservative, the part of Delaware, and she's running unopposed this time. So things are changing. Things are changing, but it's a matter of us acknowledging that there's nothing to be, just because it's different, there's nothing to be fearful about.
Thank you for your question.
Okay. That was a very political answer. She asked specifically about kids and what they should do or be able to be allowed to do medically. He didn't answer the question at all. He went on for 2 minutes about his favorite son, who wasn't a complete, drug abuser and all that nonsense, corrupted, and talked about the charity organization he ran to protect abused children. That doesn't answer anything about where we're at with trans children. Once again, I don't know what the percentage of people in this country that are okay with trans children or okay with parents pushing gender affirming stuff on their kids. I'm talking younger than 18. No, if you're 25 and you want to switch genders, I don't care. I'm guessing 90% of the country or 90% plus don't care. They might think it's weird. They might think it's wrong. They might think it's not good for you long term. They might think you're going to regret it, which most of those have been proven that will come about eventually. But you can do what you want when you are an adult. We also, as a society, have a obligation to protect children. You're not allowed to beat your kid relentlessly. You get your kid taken away. You're not allowed to not feed your kid. You get your kid taken away. You're not even allowed to not send your kid to school. You get your kid taken away. So there are things that parents aren't allowed to do, even though this is a free country. And I'm on board with. I think we all think you probably shouldn't beat your kid relentlessly. Well, we probably all agree on that, hopefully. We also need to protect our kids from parents who want to push all this gender. I mean, let the kid grow up. Just let him grow up. Don't push all your agendas on him. If your kid wants to play with G.I. Joes, let them play with G.I. Joes. If they want to play with Transformers, let them play with Transformers. If she wants to play with Barbies, let her play with Barbies. And then if she turns 25 someday and she says, you know what? I don't feel like this is for me. I'm going to switch teams. I don't got a problem with it. I think they're going to regret it. I think that's a mental health issue that can be fixed and solved without drugs. And I think a lot of people probably agree with me on that. They're probably just afraid to say it. But this is America. We have freedom, and I'm not going to stop people from making their decisions if they're an adult and it's self-inflicted stuff. But to say that you can castrate your little boys or get breast surgeries on little girls and remove their breasts because you are pushing your agenda on them and they're 12, 13, 14. They don't know who they are at 12, 13, 14. They don't know who they are. I didn't know who I was until I was 30, let alone 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. The amount of trauma kids go through in school now because of social media, how mixed up they are, the amount of decisions we don't want kids to commit suicide. We don't want teenage girls to commit suicide. They commit so much suicide these days in high school because of social media and how all the negativity that are pushed on them. We don't allow them to do that. That's their decision. They're not in the right state of mind. We're called parents. You're called as a parent to protect your kids. Let them grow up. Teach them how to think of themselves and critically think and make good decisions. And please get them in the church, get them around God, get them seeing what our Lord and Savior wants us to, how they want us to treat, how He wants us to treat sex, how important it is to Him, male and female. There is no in between. There is no blurring the lines. I could go on for days talking about this. It's already been 21 minutes. All right. I'm Fearless Dojo. That's our president talking to a TikTok influencer. See you in the next video. Godspeed.